Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you with a message that speaks to the heart of every woman who has ever felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her soul. Not all are chosen, but those who are carry marks unseen by the world, marks given not by man, but by the Almighty Himself. These marks are not physical, yet they shape everything about you. They are not visible to the naked eye, yet they define your purpose, your strength, and your calling. The spirit of divine calling from the very beginning, chosen women know they are set apart. There is a whisper deep within their souls, reminding them that they were made for more. When others drift without direction, they walk with certainty because they have heard the voice of purpose calling their name. Unshakable faith in trials life will test you. The winds will blow and the waves will rise, but a chosen woman does not crumble. She stands firm, knowing that her faith is greater than the storm. The trials that come are not meant to break her, but to prove the strength within her. A heart of compassion, a chosen woman sees the suffering around her and she cannot turn away. She feels the pain of others as if it were her own. She lifts the fallen, she comforts the broken, and she speaks hope where there is none. Her love is not weak. It is the greatest force in the world. Wisdom beyond her years, there is something about her words that carry weight. Not because she has studied more, but because her wisdom is from above. When she speaks, people listen. When she advises, lives change. It is not knowledge alone that she holds, but divine understanding. The power of influence, a chosen woman does not need a stage to lead. She can be a mother shaping the next generation, a teacher guiding young minds, a friend who lifts others higher. She carries light wherever she goes, and those around her are better for knowing her. A life of prayer and devotion, she knows that her strength is not her own. She wakes in the morning, seeks guidance. She walks through the day with divine awareness. And she ends each night in gratitude. Her prayers move mountains, not because of her words, but because of the one who hears them. The courage to stand alone, not every path is crowded. Sometimes the road of righteousness is walked alone. A chosen woman knows this, and she does not fear it. She stands firm when others fall. She chooses truth over comfort. She does what is right, even when it costs her everything. My friends, these marks are not given to every woman, but only to those who are called for something greater. If you see these marks within yourself, do not shrink back. Rise up, walk boldly in your calling, for you were made for such a time as this. You are chosen, you are set apart. Au ground. And the world is waiting for what you carry. There is something profound about the individual who feels a deep, inescapable sense of purpose. This is not merely ambition or a fleeting desire for achievement. It is something far more fundamental. It is a weight, a responsibility, an awareness that life is not random and that one's presence in the world is not accidental. Women who are chosen, those who carry an extraordinary calling, recognize this early, though they may not always understand it. They sense, sometimes in childhood, sometimes later in life, that they are set apart for something beyond themselves. This awareness manifests in different ways. It may appear as a quiet dissatisfaction with the mundane, an inability to settle for a life dictated by mere convention. While others are content to follow a path laid out for them, these women feel compelled to carve out something new, to challenge the norm, to question what is taken for granted. They are not necessarily rebellious for rebellion's sake, but they are not passive either. They refuse to conform to a life that does not align with the deep conviction stirring within them. This sense of calling is both a blessing and a burden. It creates a restlessness, a sense of being in transit, of always striving toward something unseen but deeply felt. It is a call toward responsibility, which is no light thing. To carry such a calling means to recognize that one cannot simply drift, cannot merely exist. Every action matters. Every decision carries weight. And this is daunting. It is far easier to ignore this call, to suppress it, to attempt to fit into a mold designed by societal expectation. But for those who are truly chosen, ignoring the call is not an option. It gnaws at them, waking them in the middle of the night, urging them forward, even when they do not know the destination. And this, of course, creates a paradox. The chosen woman must navigate a world that does not always understand her. She may feel out of place, unable to relate to those who are satisfied with surface-level pursuits. She may struggle with isolation, feeling as though she carries something so heavy that few can truly comprehend it. But this is the price of purpose. Great responsibility isolates. It demands that one rise above mediocrity, that one strive toward an ideal that is often ridiculed or dismissed. But here is the crucial thing. Answering the call does not mean knowing everything from the outset. It does not mean certainty at every step. Rather, it means the willingness to move forward despite uncertainty. It is the decision to act in accordance with what is known to be true, even when the path is unclear. The woman who is called must cultivate courage, for courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to confront it. She must be willing to take risks, to endure hardship, to fail and rise again, because the calling does not promise ease, only meaning. And meaning in the end is what sustains. A life of mere comfort and security, devoid of purpose, breeds dissatisfaction and despair. The woman who follows her calling, though she may suffer for it, finds herself strengthened by it. The struggle refines her, tempers her, makes her into something more than she once was. She discovers depths of resilience she did not know she possessed. She learns to bear the burdens of life not with resignation, but with resolve. And through this, she becomes a beacon for others, because there is nothing more inspiring than a person who fully embraces the weight of their own existence. This is not to say that the path is always clear or that the road is without obstacles. The chosen woman will face resistance. She will be misunderstood. She will be told to take an easier route, to lower her standards, to abandon the pursuit of something higher, but she cannot. She will stumble, but she will not stay down. She will face doubt, but she will not succumb to it, because something inside her will not let her quit. And so she continues. She moves forward, sometimes uncertainly, sometimes painfully, but always forward. She builds, she learns, she transforms. She steps into the fullness of who she was meant to be. And in doing so, she does not just change her own life. She changes the lives of those around her. She becomes an anchor, a force of stability and inspiration, a reminder that there is something greater to strive toward. If you feel this call within you, do not ignore it. It will not go away. It will follow you wherever you go. It is your responsibility to answer it, to step into the life you are meant to live. There is too much at stake to do otherwise. The world needs what you carry. It always has. It always will. Agwata. Life is suffering. This is not a pessimistic statement, nor is it an invitation to despair. It is an observation of reality, one that has been echoed by the greatest minds across cultures and centuries. The question then is not whether suffering will come, but how one will respond when it does. And those who are chosen, those with a greater responsibility placed upon them, must cultivate an unshakable faith in the face of trials. To have faith in the midst of hardship is not to deny reality, nor is it to adopt the naive optimism that everything will simply work itself out. It is instead a decision, an act of defiance against the chaos that threatens to consume. Faith is the refusal to collapse under the weight of suffering. It is the determination to stand upright, to bear the burden, to move forward despite the darkness pressing in. Women who are truly called to something higher do not escape suffering. In fact, they often encounter more of it. They are tested in ways that others are not. They face loss, betrayal, rejection, disappointment. They experience moments where everything they believed in is shaken, where they question whether they can continue. And yet they do. Not because it is easy, but because they know the alternative. The descent into bitterness, resentment, and despair is far worse. The world does not reward the weak. It does not make accommodations for those who crumble at the first sign of adversity. It is brutal, indifferent, unyielding. And so those who are called to something greater must develop a kind of inner fortitude that allows them to face suffering without being destroyed by it. This is no small task. It requires discipline. It requires the willingness to endure pain without retreating into self-pity. It requires the ability to look hardship in the face and say, I will not be defeated. But this strength does not come from sheer willpower alone. It is born from something deeper, a belief that there is meaning to be found even in suffering. The chosen woman understands that her trials are not arbitrary, that they are shaping her into something more. She does not ask, why is this happening to me? But rather, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? How can I use this pain to become stronger, wiser, better? This is what separates those who transcend suffering from those who are crushed by it. The difference is not in the amount of pain experienced, but in the response to it. Those who lack faith see hardship as an injustice, a punishment, something to be avoided at all costs. But the chosen woman sees it as an opportunity, as a test, as a means of transformation. She understands that the fire that burns also refines. That pressure creates diamonds. That struggle is the very thing that forges character. And make no mistake, faith does not mean the absence of fear or doubt. Oh, it's free. It is not the denial of reality, but rather the decision to move forward despite it. It is standing at the edge of the unknown and stepping forward anyway. It is refusing to be paralyzed by uncertainty. It is choosing to believe that even in the midst of suffering, there is something worth striving for, something worth holding on to. This kind of faith does not come easily. It is not something one is simply born with. It must be cultivated. It must be tested. It must be forged in the crucible of experience. And this is precisely why trials come, not to destroy, but to strengthen. Without hardship, there is no resilience. Without struggle, there is no growth. Without adversity, there is no true faith. But the reward for this kind of faith is immense. The woman who stands firm in the face of trials becomes unshakable. She develops a presence that others recognize even if they cannot explain it. She carries herself with a quiet strength, an unwavering certainty that allows her to navigate even the most difficult circumstances without losing herself. She becomes a source of stability in an unstable world. Others look to her, drawn to the confidence she exudes, not because she has never suffered, but because she has, and yet she remains standing. And this is what the world so desperately needs. It needs women who do not crumble under pressure, who do not retreat in the face of hardship, who do not surrender to despair. It needs women who have walked through the fire and emerged stronger. Women who refuse to be victims, who refuse to be defined by their suffering, who refuse to allow adversity to dictate their destiny. If you are one of these women, you already know what it means to be tested. You know what it is to face obstacles that seem insurmountable. You have had moments where you thought you could not go on, and yet here you are. That is proof of your strength. That is evidence of your faith. And so the choice before you is clear. Will you allow hardship to break you, or will you use it to make yourself into something greater? Will you shrink back in fear, or will you step forward in courage? The world will not make this decision for you. No one will come to rescue you from your suffering. But you have within you the ability to rise. You have the capacity to endure. You have the power to transform pain into purpose. So stand firm, hold fast, and do not waver. The trials will come, but they will not define you. Your response will. Compassion is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the highest forms of strength. It is easy to turn away from suffering, to ignore the pain of others, to become so preoccupied with one's own struggles that the struggles of the world fade into irrelevance. But there are those who cannot do this, those who feel the weight of human suffering as though it were their own. These individuals, particularly women who are called to something greater, carry within them a profound sense of responsibility, an instinctive drive to nurture, heal, and restore. This is not sentimentality. It is not some naive idealism detached from reality. It is instead a deeply embedded understanding that human beings are fragile, that life is full of suffering, and that the only way forward is through acts of kindness, through the deliberate choice to make the world even slightly less harsh than it is. But compassion, in its truest form, is not simply about feeling pity. It is not merely an emotional reaction to suffering. It is an active force, a willingness to step into the pain of another, to bear part of their burden, to make oneself vulnerable in the process. This kind of compassion is rare. The reason is simple. It is difficult. It demands sacrifice. To truly care is to risk being wounded, to risk disappointment, to risk exhaustion. It is far easier to become cynical, to convince oneself that the suffering of others is not one's concern. And yet those who are truly called, those who are truly chosen, do not have this option. They cannot harden their hearts, no matter how much easier it would be. They feel compelled to act, to help, to heal. But compassion must be tempered with wisdom. It is not enough to simply want to help. One must know how to help effectively. There is a reason why kindness without discernment can be dangerous. One cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. One cannot help in a way that enables destruction or weakness. True compassion does not shield people from all pain, nor does it attempt to eliminate struggle entirely. Instead, it seeks to empower. It recognizes that suffering is inevitable, but refuses to allow suffering to be meaningless. A woman who possesses this kind of compassion is a force to be reckoned with. She does not waste time with performative gestures, with empty words meant to signal virtue. She does not pity from a distance. She engages. She does not merely wish the world were better. She takes deliberate steps to make it so. She mentors, she nurtures, she builds, she fights for those who cannot fight for themselves, and she stands firm against the forces that would seek to destroy what is good. But this road is not without its costs. To live with an open heart is to expose oneself to hurt. The more one loves, the greater the risk of loss. The more one cares, the more deeply one feels the weight of the world's brokenness. It is tempting then to retreat, to become bitter, to close oneself off, to refuse to feel anything at all. But this is not the path of those who are chosen. To truly live with purpose is to accept the risk of pain. It is to understand that suffering is not a reason to withdraw, but a reason to press forward. And this is what the world so desperately needs. It does not need more indifference, sans distance. It does not need more cynicism. It does not need more people who look at suffering and shrug. It needs those who will step forward despite the risks, those who will love even when love is costly, those who will give even when giving is difficult. The world needs people who understand that compassion is not just about making others feel better, but about making them stronger. This is no small task. It requires an extraordinary level of resilience. It requires a willingness to be hurt, to be disappointed, to be exhausted, and to keep going anyway. It requires the ability to see the brokenness of the world and not turn away. It demands the courage to remain kind in a world that often rewards cruelty. If you are one of these people, you already know what it means to feel too much, to carry burdens that are not your own, to wish you could do more. But do not let the weight of compassion break you. Let it shape you into something formidable. Let it make you wise. Let it make you strong. And above all, do not give up. Do not let the hardness of the world turn you cold. Do not let disappointment make you indifferent. Keep fighting, keep healing, keep building, because the world needs you now more than ever. There is something remarkable about a woman who carries wisdom beyond her years. She is not merely intelligent, nor is she simply knowledgeable. She possesses something deeper, an insight, a discernment, a clarity that cannot be explained by education alone. It is as if she sees beyond the surface, beyond what is immediately apparent, into the very heart of things. This kind of wisdom is rare. It cannot be bought, it cannot be faked, and it cannot be inherited. It is given, nurtured, and refined over time. And it is found most often in those who have walked through trials, who have faced hardship, who have been tested by life and have come through it with their faith intact. It is found in those who have sought the truth, not just as an intellectual exercise, but as a way of life. A woman with this kind of wisdom does not speak hastily. She does not waste words. When she speaks, her words carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they are true. People listen to her, even if they do not always understand why. They seek her advice, even if they do not always follow it. They are drawn to her because she is steady, because she does not waver with the changing winds of culture or opinion. She has built her life on something solid, and others can see it. But wisdom does not come easily. It is not given to those who are unwilling to seek it. It requires humility, a willingness to listen, to learn, to admit when one is wrong. It requires patience, the ability to wait for understanding rather than rushing into conclusions. It requires discernment, the ability to separate what is true from what is merely popular, what is right from what is simply convenient. And perhaps most of all, it requires fear of the Lord, not fear in the sense of terror, but in the sense of awe, reverence, and surrender. True wisdom does not come from human intellect alone. It comes from a higher source. It is the ability to see the world as it truly is, not just as we wish it to be. It is the ability to understand not only what is happening, but why. It is the ability to recognize what truly matters in the grand scheme of things. Such wisdom is desperately needed today. We live in a world filled with information, but starved for understanding. Never before have we had so much access to knowledge, and yet never before have so many people been so lost. They chase after empty things. They are consumed by distractions. They seek meaning in places where it cannot be found. They trust their own opinions over eternal truths, and as a result, they are left confused, anxious, and afraid. But a woman of wisdom stands apart from this chaos. She is not easily swayed by deception. She does not fall for every new idea that comes along. She does not build her life on trends, on opinions, on fleeting pleasures. She builds her life on something eternal, something unshakable. She seeks the truth, and when she finds it, she holds on to it with everything she has. This does not mean she is perfect. She has doubts, she has struggles, she has moments of weakness, but she does not let these things define her. She presses on, she seeks wisdom, and because she seeks it, she finds it. And because she finds it, she is able to guide others. For that is the purpose of wisdom, not just to benefit oneself, but to be a light for others. A wise woman does not keep her wisdom to herself. She shares it. She speaks truth in love. She lifts up those who are struggling. She warns those who are heading toward destruction. She encourages those who are weary. She teaches by example, showing what it means to live with integrity, with purpose, with faith. And this is what the world so desperately needs. It does not need more noise. It does not need more empty words. It does not need more confusion. It needs voices of wisdom, voices that speak with clarity and conviction. It needs women who are willing to stand for what is true, even when it is unpopular. It needs women who will not compromise their values for the sake of comfort or acceptance. It needs women who will be pillars of strength in a time of uncertainty. So if you are one of these women, do not be silent. Do not hide the wisdom you have been given. Do not shrink back in fear. Speak the truth. Live the truth. Be a light in the darkness. The world may not always listen. It may even reject you, but do not be discouraged. Stand firm. Keep seeking wisdom. Keep sharing it. Keep walking in it. Because in the end, wisdom will prevail, and those who have it will not be shaken. Strength is not merely physical. It is not just the ability to endure hardship or to overcome obstacles. True strength Deep, lasting, transformative strength comes from something much greater. It is the ability to stand in the face of chaos and not be consumed by it. It is the ability to bear responsibility, to carry burdens without breaking, to take on the weight of the world and still move forward. This kind of strength is rare. It does not come naturally, and it is not evenly distributed. It is cultivated. It is earned. It is forged in fire. And for those who are chosen, those who feel the weight of something greater in their lives, this strength is not optional. It is required. The world does not make life easy for people who carry great responsibility. If you are one of them, you already know this. You know what it is to be misunderstood, to feel isolated, to carry burdens that others seem oblivious to. You know what it is to wake up in the morning with a sense that there is something you must do, something you must become, even when the path is unclear. And you know that weakness is not an option. But what does true strength look like? It is not aggression. It is not domination. It is not mere resilience. Strength in its highest form is the ability to endure suffering without becoming bitter. It is the ability to take hardship, to take pain, and to transform it into something meaningful. It is the ability to carry responsibility not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. And make no mistake, this is not a small thing. The human tendency when faced with suffering is to shrink back. It is to complain, to blame, to fall into self-pity. It is to look for an escape, to wish for an easier path, to resent the burden. But true strength rejects this. True strength says, this is my responsibility, and I will bear it. It says, I will not allow suffering to make me small. It says, I will carry this weight because it must be carried. This is what separates those who rise from those who fall. The difference is not intelligence, not talent, not luck. It is the willingness to endure. It is the refusal to give up. It is the choice to stand tall when everything is trying to pull you down. And this strength is not just for you, it is for those around you. Because whether you realize it or not, people are watching. They are looking to see if you will break. They are looking to see if you will give up. And when you do not, when you keep going, when you keep pushing forward despite everything, something remarkable happens. Man, remarkable happens. You give them permission to do the same. Strength, when truly cultivated, is contagious. It inspires, it lifts others up. It creates order in a world filled with chaos. It sets an example that others can follow. And this is why it is so crucial. Because the world does not need more people who give up at the first sign of difficulty. It does not need more people who shrink back from responsibility. It needs those who are willing to carry weight, to take on burdens, to stand firm, even when everything is pushing against them. But this kind of strength is not built in comfort. It is not developed in ease. It is forged in struggle. And so if you find yourself in hardship, if you find yourself facing trials that seem unbearable, do not despair. These trials are your training ground. They are refining you. They are shaping you into someone who can bear even greater burdens, who can handle even greater responsibility. And responsibility is what gives life meaning. It is what separates a life of purpose from a life of emptiness. It is what makes suffering bearable. Bearable? Because suffering without meaning destroys. But suffering that is embraced as part of a greater purpose transforms. It turns pain into wisdom. It turns hardship into strength. So do not run from struggle. Do not wish for an easier life. Wish instead for the strength to endure the life you have been given. Seek to become someone who can stand under the weight, who can hold the line, who can remain unshaken even when the storm rages, because the world needs people like that. And if you are one of those people, if you feel the call to something greater, then you already know that weakness is not an option. So rise, carry your burden. Do not look for an escape. Do not shrink back in fear. Move forward with everything you have. Because the strength you cultivate now will not just shape your own life, it will shape the lives of those around you. And in the end, it will shape the world.